Hello and welcome to the Mysticast, where you join me, Jack Stafford, a student of metaphysics and member of the Aetherius Society, the cosmic religion for the Aquarian Age, as we break down the barriers between religion, science, metaphysics, philosophy, and mysticism, all of which are really only aspects of the self-same quest for truth. Please note this is an independent program, not produced or fact-checked by the Aetherius Society. Today's truth is the solar system. Are we in a binary system? Is there a planet X? What are the Yugas, and are we in a dark age now? And to discuss this, I'm very pleased to be joined by Brian Keneipp and Walter Cruttenden. Brian Keneipp is the executive director of the American headquarters of the Aetherius Society. He's a bishop in the Aetherius churches, as well as co-editor of the New Age journal Cosmic Voice. He's also an author whose work includes Operation Earthlight, a glimpse into the world of the Ascended Masters. Includes some of Brian's extraordinary experiences while working for his master, Dr. George King. He's also the co-author of Dr. King's biography, The King Who Came to Earth. And Walter Cruttenden is a renowned fintech investor with an incredible passion for human history and astronomy. He's the director of the Binary Research Institute in Newport Beach, California, which researches the cause and consequences of solar system motion. As part of his cosmological work, Walter authored the book Lost Star of Myth and Time, as well as the award-winning documentary film, The Great Year. Well, it's wonderful to have you both on the show.
Good to be here.
Pleasure.
So this episode was proposed by Brian. He's read some of your work. And Walter, could you just kick us off, Brian, and explain what first attracted you? Because you're executive director of the Aetherius Society, so you've read so many interesting things and you have so many interests. What particularly about Walter's work?
Well, I stumbled across his book shortly after it first came out, and it really intrigued me because I'm also an amateur astronomer myself, and it really intrigued me that Walter could find inspiration from Sri Yukteswar, because I'm also, of course, greatly into spirituality. And he found this angle about a binary, another sun in our solar system, which of course goes completely against common astronomical theory forever, and it really intrigued me. And then and then I also watched his video on the Great Year, which I also have a great interest in. And I just found he had a really common sense approach, and he with his own money, he financed, as I recall, an astronomer or two and a mathematician or two to kind of crunch the numbers and demonstrate that the precession, rather than being theorized by Newton, Newton, as being caused by the moon and other things, he's proposed. Correct me if I'm wrong here, because it's been a while. Proposed that the math would be a lot simpler if it was caused by another binary another sun in our system. And that intrigued me. That really got me thinking mainly about the placement of the other planet, which we strongly believe in the Aetherius Society. And there's been false hopes for many years about finding one. And you think of it maybe outside of the Kuiper belt or whatever. But it intrigued me that the possibility may be that this other planet might be in rotation of the binary. And so we were looking in the wrong direction. So that's broadly what interested me in your work.
Super. Well, thanks again, guys, for having me on your show here. And yes, I have this institute called the Binary Research Institute, where we look into the idea that precession might have a cause different than pure axial wobble. And I'm not saying that there's no axial wobble. I just believe it might be overstated. So, I think we should kind of just back up a little bit and talk about how these ideas came about at the very beginning. So let's go back to, the early 1500s, and we're just coming out of the Dark Age, and Copernicus is trying to figure out the local solar system, what it looks like. And for the last 1,000 years, this idea of the geocentric system has reigned, the Ptolemaic system, that the Earth is the center of the solar system and everything goes around us.
Right.
But people are getting smarter in this, this early Renaissance period, and we're making clocks, we're understanding gears and motions, and so this idea that the Earth doesn't move and that everything has to race around us every day, people are starting to realize that they'd have to be going at incredible speeds, the sun and the stars and things like this. And so Copernicus tackles this problem, and he wants to bring back the Greek system of Aristarchus of Samos, which reigned almost 2,000 years before Copernicus. The Greeks believed that the sun was at the center of our solar system. So this is the setup. And Copernicus first needs to establish the sun as the center, the immovable center of the universe, he calls it. And to do this, he has to stop this motion of the sun from going around us. And he does this very simply by giving us the first motion of the Earth, which is the Earth rotates on its axis. And nobody really buys into it at the time. I mean, a few enlightened folks do, and scientists, but the bulk of the people just use their senses to say, no, I don't feel the earth moving. The sun has to be going around us. But he persists, and, over a few 100,000 years, this idea of the Earth rotating on its axis is finally accepted. And so that's the first motion that Copernicus gives us. The Earth rotates on its axis, and that's why everything rises in the east and sets in the west. The sun, the moon, the stars, planets, everything, not because they're all moving so dramatically, but because we're rotating the other way. Then he has to tackle the second problem. Why does the sun appear to rise in a different constellation of the zodiac, every month or so throughout the year? Again, the sun is moving. He wants to fix it. So everyone's pretty aware that the sun rises in different constellations because the zodiac is used just as a reference frame. And it's even used by astronomers today. It's much easier to say, Jupiter is in Taurus than to give the right ascension and declination numbers. It's just a simple ease of use term. And so Copernicus says, well, if the sun is rising in these different constellations throughout the year, going the direction of the calendar. So it's in Pisces, and then it's in Aquarius, and then it's in Aries and Taurus, etc. Then it must be that the Earth itself is going around the sun, and we're just seeing a different 30 degrees of sky each month. And after 12 months, we've seen 360 degrees of sky. We've seen the sun rise in, all 12 constellations throughout the year. And again, it takes a few hundred years for this to be accepted. People fight about it, but it's finally broadly accepted. And then the third thing that Copernicus had to do was stop the sun's retrograde motion to fix it at the center. And this is something that people are less aware of, but besides the Earth's rotation and the Earth's revolution around the sun, the sun actually goes retrograde across the sky, backwards to its movements throughout the year. It precesses instead of processes, if you will, across the sky. And so at the rate of about 50 arc seconds per year. And so Copernicus said the sun can't be moving if it's the fixed center of the universe. So the sun would only appear to be going retrograde 50 arc seconds per year if the axis itself wobbles a little bit. He called it libration. And so if you really think about it, if the equinox is when a line drawn from the sun is exactly perpendicular to the Earth's axis, then if the axis is a little different, then the equinox is going to happen in a different place. And so he said the Earth's axis wobbles, and it wasn't very well understood, still not very well understood. But in time, people said, hey, he's right about the first two. He must be right about this one. And so Newton comes along, almost 200 years later and says, if the axis does wobble, then it must be due to gravity, which Newton, had just sort of invented. The gravity always existed, but yeah, he sort of formulated an equation for it. And he said it must be the largest thing in our solar system, the sun, and the closest thing to Earth, the moon, tugging on the oblate Earth. The Earth isn't exactly round; it's a little pear-shaped. And so he said, if these two forces must be causing the Earth axis to slightly wobble, and so that can explain what we see if you don't delve really heavy into the mechanics behind it. And so it's a very well accepted idea, accepted by, probably 99% of the astrophysicists today. Although there are recently more and more papers that are questioning this idea of precession because it's had so many problems over the years. And so that's sort of the first big point here, that Copernicus came up with this idea that the Earth's axis must wobble, that causes the sun to appear to go backwards. And it's because of this wobble that we see the sun move retrograde. But of course, that is not what Eastern science gave us, sort of, people in the Orient. And I wasn't aware of that until I read Sri Yukteswar's book, this book, The Holy Science, Brian, which you had mentioned you read also. And it's a fascinating book. And when I first read it 30, 40 years ago, I was just going about my life, just pretty much accepting everything that was out there. And I was really enthralled by the accomplishments, the enlightenment, the skills of these great masters. Sri Yukteswar is one of them. And then he gives us this different idea for precession. And so in it, he acknowledges that, planets have their moons, and planets with their moons go around the sun. And then he said the sun takes some star for its jewel and goes around it, which causes the backward motion of the equinoctial point, which is precession. And so when I read that, I thought, man, how could this guy be an enlightened master and be so wrong about this one? And so I thought, well, I have to check this out. And I had done pretty well in business and finance and that sort of thing. And so I had the ability to hire a few mathematicians and astronomer and some guys that could help me, create the graphics to create models of this. And over a few years, we realized that, it's actually a much better way to explain precession, and instead of 3,000 variables, which the current precession equation has, you can do it with just 6 variables. And instead of it being off every year, like the current precession calculations, it's extremely accurate. It's like 43 times more accurate than the current system of determining where the sun will be. And so it's a fantastic insight into the cause of precession, with the exception of one huge problem.
Where's the sun?
It's supposed to be this other star. And
Now, can I just jump in? In your book, you had postulated the possibility of it being Sirius, because based on the alignment of the pyramids facing Sirius, but they wouldn't have been facing Sirius 2,000 years ago. Are you still thinking it's Sirius, or do you think it's now a different sun? Or I think you also were saying that some of the astronomers that you got interested in looking for something were looking more for black dwarfs, as they call them, or dwarf suns, smaller suns, to achieve
black
that.
hole or brown dwarf or something
Yeah,
like
brown
that.
dwarf.
Yes.
Where does that stand today? I haven't really kept up with it.
Right. So in my book, I kind of lay out the case for these different scenarios. If it is a visible star, then, Sirius is the brightest star in the sky. It's 8 light years away, so there's a real problem with getting around it in time.
Yeah.
But it is a star that ancients talked about and seemed to put a lot of attention on. And so I just mentioned that as a possibility, because, until it's proven by the astronomical community, I'm going to just sort of
Sit back.
keep my options open here.
Right.
But other scenarios do exist. And of course, there is this brown dwarf scenario, and red dwarf scenario.
What's a red dwarf?
So a red dwarf, I think it's the most prevalent star in the sky in the universe today, and they tend to be smaller than our sun and sort of your other brighter stars. And so the closest star to our solar system, single star system, is a red dwarf called Barnard's star. The closest star system is actually Alpha Centauri. It's made up of 3 stars, Proxima Centauri, Alpha Centauri, and Alpha Centauri B, and they're about 4.2 to 4.4 light years from us. The 3 different stars. And Alpha Centauri's star Barnard is about 5.9 light stars. So it's farther away, but it's considered a single star system.
Right.
And just 3 days ago, there was a discovery. There not many people talking about it yet, but 3 days ago, it was confirmed that there is a planet going around Barnard's star.
Interesting.
Yeah, super interesting, because gamers had actually made it up and we're talking about it and using it in different games. And here it's
almost typical of our days, isn't it?
Isn't it? Yeah. And so I don't know much about it yet. They think it's about the size of Earth, 1.1 Earth masses, and it's much closer to the star, so they don't think it's in a habitable zone. But it's
just to jump in here over quickly. One reason why I drilled into the idea of possibly a planet going around our binary is that we haven't really found a suitable planet yet that could sustain life more or less as we know it. But in our teachings, there's a statement where Dr. King said the new planet is in our solar system, but just outside of it, and that you could also say the Kuiper belt, I suppose. But in my mind, it could also be a way of saying a planet going around our binary. That's kind of where I was kind of going with the possibility, and why I was excited about a binary. Just also because it's just such an amazing difference of looking at things. But that's one of the that's really interesting that it just happened 3 days ago that they discovered that.
Yeah. You
That's
Brian
amazing.
Google it. I think they're calling it Bernard's B for right.
Bernard's B. Interesting. Well, that's fascinating.
Pretty fascinating. Yeah, and when I first got on this work and read about Yukteswar stuff and got the Binary Research Institute going, nobody was looking for anything else out there that might be affecting our solar system.
Oh, clearly.
Yeah. It was about the year 2015, 2016 in there that that mainstream astronomers began to find so many dwarf planets, Pluto-sized planets
Right.
outwards the Kuiper belt that they got the notion that there must be something greater going on, and the reason for that is most of these dwarf planets have common characteristics. They're all inclined to the plane of the main planets.
How far off are they?
Well, Pluto, for example, is about 17 degrees off plane,
Oh,
and they're varying ranges, but roughly in that range. Call it 15 to 25, sort of thing.
pretty significant.
Yeah, and I'm not saying there's not one or two others that are even more inclined, but there seems to be quite a number there. Also, almost all of them have their perihelions, their closest approach to the sun,
Mm-hmm.
one side of the sun, and and also they all have very
Long.
elliptical orbits.
Right.
And so that's when
Interesting.
people like Mike Brown and some others at Caltech realized, this can't all be coincidence.
Right.
It's
Right.
millions and millions to one if it's a coincidence.
Yeah.
Probably some big mass out there that's perturbing them, and that's when the whole
Right.
search for Planet 9 really got going again in earnest.
Right.
And so, yeah, it's comforting to see some other scientists looking for something,
Right.
and it's actually, I've read things they're like 100% sure there has to be a big mass out there, which they
Right.
put it. It's either 5 to 10 Earths if it's an Earth, if it's a planet type object, or it would have to be much larger if it's much farther out. The farther out you
Right.
go, the bigger it has to be. And so,
Well, with the Bernard sun, would that accomplish it, or is it too far away?
yeah, it does fit the bill in a lot of ways. There's one drawback, but it's it's a star, so it's 50,000 Earth masses. So
Yeah.
it seems to have the appropriate mass. Also, it is when you find the center mass between two objects. So if you assume that the sun and Bernard's are part of a binary system, then common center mass would be less than a light year away because it's closer to the heavier object,
Oh, really?
us, the sun.
Interesting.
And
Yeah.
so it wouldn't be difficult for Bernard's and our sun moving at their current speeds, increasing slightly as they get closer to each other and then slowing down as they get farther away from each other. Kepler's laws, all stars, planets, moons work this way. So it all fits really quite nicely into this roughly 24,000 year orbit period, with the exception that
There's always an exception.
yeah, if it was an easy problem, it would have been solved, right? And that is that Bernard's, everyone acknowledges that it's coming straight towards us, that it will be closer than Alpha Centauri within about
Really?
10,000 years, which is the point at which Sri Yukteswar said that this other star will be closest. So it has a lot of good things going for it. But the current belief is that even though it's the fastest moving star known, it's called a runaway star, which we can get into in a moment. So people feel it's just going to go right by us.
I see.
That's the current belief, that it's going beyond what's called escape velocity.
Right.
So everything,
science has been wrong before. I mean, they used to say there was only one galaxy, didn't they? So things do change as you get more and more data.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, there's a lot of stars that are going beyond escape velocity that should have left our galaxy. He just mentioned.
Right.
And so, and scientists have invented something that they don't know what it is, but they have a concept for it to make things work, and it's called dark matter.
Right.
And
Yeah.
It's just assume that there has to be a lot more matter in the galaxy, and that's why the stars at the edge of our galaxy aren't all flying off, because they're not close enough to be held. They're going too fast.
Right.
And so if we need dark matter, out there to hold stars to our galaxy, then maybe there's some form of it that will affect Bernard's star as it gets close to us, that causes it to actually sling around our own sun rather than just escape away. So,
just to throw in an interesting theory that I have, see if it blows your mind or not. We believe in other realms around Earth, and so when you die, you leave the physical structure and you inhabit a physical but less physical structure on the other realm, like heaven and hell, but many different realms. And then you live for a while, and then you reincarnate back into another physical body. And so if you go along with that postulation, where you've got several other realms around all planets and all suns, with different beings living there in different forms of matter, our science can't detect it right now, like you can't detect a ghost, for example, but there's enough evidence that they do exist. But if you think that there's all of these planes of existence around Earth and all other space objects, and it is physical, although a different kind of physicality than we can think of, you could or I've postulated anyway, that that's the dark matter, that we haven't yet gotten to our technology to be able to discover that level of vibration, but it's there. I'll just throw out that theory for you.
Yes. I'm familiar with the concept that, many masters talk about astral realms and causal realms,
Right.
which are certainly less physical. I guess the astral is mostly energy, and the causal is also called the ideational realm, but mostly ideas. Very, very subtle.
It's very subtle. Yeah.
Yeah.
But something.
But something, right. And when you don't have a physical body, I guess it's everything. But
Well, yeah. I mean, if you're on that same level of vibration, then it would be physical. You see, because like here, like a ghost again walks through walls, because that's not the vibration of the objects that they're living on. Whereas if you're into that plane where it's all the same vibration, then the wall, you couldn't walk through the wall. You would hit the wall, kind of a thing. That's just one. It's a concept that might describe, might explain dark matter, possibly. That's my current theory anyway.
yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, science is making discoveries all the time. Of course, it's it's rightfully very conservative about.
Oh yes, that's fair. Yes,
an incremental one, so that way it has a little trust. But
that's right.
yeah, I don't doubt that a lot of things these great, enlightened masters that have come before will found to be true at some point. We just have to increase our understanding.
I think that's the point. They're telling us things that they've discovered through going into meditation or talking with beings that are more evolved than us. and they're trying to explain that to us, but we're at a certain level of our scientific development and mental development, spiritual development, throw it all in there, that we really can't comprehend what they know. And so they, for example, like you mentioned, there are many masters talk about the other realms, and if you look at the different great beings that have talked about it, Buddhism, a lot of Buddhists talk about it. Shivananda, the yogis talk about it. They all talk, and of course, in our teaching, we talk about it. And if you look at, they're all a little bit different. And in my mind, it's like trying to explain an elephant to a blind man. You've heard that analogy. And so, they're these great beings. They aren't wrong. They're just saying it a little bit differently to try and get across that idea of other realms. And so, and you're right. I do agree that one day when we're able to open our minds more and our science goes further, and I think even more importantly, our spirituality, our understanding, like Swami Yukteswar said, we are all one. We're all part of this one great being in the universe. And as we really understand that inside of ourselves, then we will be more open to understanding what they've been trying to tell us for some time.
I accept that.
Well, that's the one thing that I really liked about his book is spirituality and religion is a great light on our world, and yet it's probably caused the most wars on our world, and so we one of the most important things certainly that we do in the Aetherius Society and others like Swami Yukteswar is get across this idea that all these different masters, again, they're saying the same thing. They're saying, don't kill each other, be compassionate, we're all one. Yet our brains focus in on the differences and make the differences so great that we would cause all these problems.
I would say that, yeah. I don't think spirituality, higher consciousness, causes the problems. It's the
lower pig.
right. It's Maya and misunderstandings that cause the problem.
Now, another thing that interested me in your work, and is a little bit different to our understanding of history, because we go, Dr. King and the teachings that he's received go into more of a karmic engine, and so you have this great being, this great absolute or Brahman, as they would say in Hindu text, which everything is a part of, and we suggest that, and all the Hindus suggest the same, is that karma, this great force of karma, is pushing or pulling everything back to this oneness again, and so that's for us. That's more of a reason why you have these rises and falls through history. And we would go back to Atlantis and Lemuria, which is about Atlantis around 350,000 years, kind of a thing. And we see it more as a civilization will expand and get better and better and better, and then because of our karma and our inability to learn these simple lessons, we develop this very advanced science, and we kill each other through atomic weapons and whatnot. Whereas it seems that the great year idea is more that we go through these great cycles almost irrelevant to our actions, and as we get nearer to this other sun, things get easier for us, even though we aren't necessarily working to get that ability. And that's kind of one of the differences that I struggle with between the great year idea of what you suggest and the karma, the great karmic thing, which develops an individual and a race itself to get better and better and better.
I do believe that both can be true. Um,
Yeah, I think you're
that
right.
that there are natural cycles that is sort of the backdrop. God creates the universe and these natural cycles and laws of physics in which we operate, which we can then take actions. And of course, karma is the result of actions, right?
Right. Yes.
Yeah. So, and one of the things that has to do with the first cycle of the Earth's rotation is, that as we on the Earth, we turn to face the sun, we all start to wake up, become
Yeah. Yeah.
conscious.
Yep.
Photosynthesis occurs. The whole animal and plant world become very active.
Yeah.
And then as we, finish the day, you turn away from the sun again, what happens, but the whole thing in reverse. We
Right.
slowly
Right.
drift off into a different consciousness, a subconscious dream state, which we then believe that's real when we're in it.
Right.
Photosynthesis shuts down, the whole animal world quiets down. And so it's,
I'll add into that too, if I may. The brightness and the light also kind of encourages optimism and good things, whereas the darkness can encourage dark and upsetting and negative things. So I'll carry on with your analogy.
I would agree. And then there's a second cycle, the second celestial motion causes the seasons, and as we again receive more light in the spring, trillions of things just burst out of the ground, and animals get very busy. They spawn, they migrate in mass, and all these things happen. And in the summer, Earth gives of its fruit and everything's wonderful, and the light is at its zenith. And then, of course, things go the other way. The light decreases, everything starts to shut down, wither and die by the trillions again. Plants and animals also seek shelter too, flying south or hibernating or whatever, migrating in reverse. And so the second celestial motion has a massive effect, sort of a backdrop for us to play out our mind. Well, there's a third backdrop, and that third backdrop is if there's a third celestial motion, Earth not just getting waxing and waning light from spinning, the Earth not just getting waxing and waning light from going around the sun, but the whole solar system receiving waxing and waning light from a larger motion, then you can expect that there's going to be some outward effect from that. And so that's the backdrop, if you will, for the idea of the Yugas, which are, supposedly known to like 30 different ancient cultures.
Yes, no, well known. Well, I'd love to, because I think you know more about the Yugas than I do, and I'd be interested to, first of all, you get kind of different timelines, and I think I would tend to agree with yours and Yukteswar's. Could you just where are we in that because I think it was 10,000 years until we're right near the sun again. Is that the other sun? Is that what we're at?
Right. So the cycle is commensurate with the celestial motion. So the Earth takes 24 hours to spin. So you'll have 12 hours of waxing light until the sun's at its zenith. Then you have 12 hours of waning light. And of course, that's at an equinoctial point. So it'll be a little more, will last whether a year before or after the equinox. And then same thing during the year, this waxing and waning type of light, commensurate the length of time of the celestial motion. So if the precession is rounded to 24,000 years, we currently track it at about 25,770 years. And that's just a matter of how fast is the sun moving retrograde across the sky.
Mm-hmm.
When it was doing, 50 arc seconds per year across the sky, then people thought the cycle was 25,000, 900 and something years. And then when it started moving 50.1 arc seconds across the sky, it's because it's gradually increasing its speed each year. People thought, oh, the cycle's only going to take 25,800
Shorter,
years.
right.
And now it's precession rate, we have really good measurements the last 200 years or so. And it's just increasing every year. And there's no good reason for that in why the Earth's axis would be wobbling faster,
Right.
But
Unless
there
it's
is,
near to the sun.
yeah, there is a
Right.
reason. Yeah.
Right.
If
Right.
precession, the sun moving across the sky is actually because the sun really moves across the sky because it's going around.
Around the other sun. And as it gets near to the other sun, it would naturally increase in speed.
Yes. And
Right.
so we think it'll average 24,000 years. And so the great year is a sort of a macrocosmic view of the day, or you could say the day is a microcosmic view of the great year. And so it's 12,000 years ascending, increasing light, closer to this other star. And then it's 12,000 years descending, going away from the other star.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not to say that everything is always perfectly smooth any more than, every day of spring is slightly warmer than the prior day. You'll have ups and downs, local regional effects and that sort of thing. And same thing in the great year. But the arc will be, increasing consciousness for 12,000 years. You go through the iron, bronze, silver, and golden age. The Greeks called it. The Indians called it the Kali Yuga, the Dwapara Yuga, Treta Yuga, and Satya Yuga, their golden age.
Mm-hmm.
And then it goes down again. And so, 12,000 years up, 12,000 years back. It fits with Kepler's laws, fits with the binary motion. And
Where are we?
let me refer to this little book again because it's just so crystal clear here.
I think it's at 10,000 years to the.
So we're, I don't know if you can see this.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But 500 AD is the very bottom, the 6 o'clock position.
I remember that. Yeah.
And 11,500 AD would be the very top, the 12th midnight position.
11,000 AD, and so we're at
11,400 AD. So that puts 500 AD as when things were the darkest. And if you think about it, every great civilization had fallen. Egypt had fallen. Mesopotamia, Sumer, Akkad, Babylon, each one lower creation than the prior civilization falls. And finally, it's just dust by the time of the Dark Age. Nomads hanging out, camels. And same thing in the Indus Valley, Mohenjo-daro and Harappan, thousands.
How was China at that time?
China fell too. Their Han dynasty is equivalent to sort of our Roman Empire.
Okay.
It's a very material age. So it's greatness in its materiality, but the higher ages aren't full of cities. I mean, the higher ages, mankind wants to live in tune with nature. You look at Hesiod. What does he say? That nature gives of herself freely, and mankind there's just peace and plenty reigns because you're living so close to tune with nature. And so, we're still,
So at 2000, we're still the beginning. We're still not too near the 10,000, because we have, if we're starting around 500 and we got to go another 11,500, we've gone 2,000, so we got a ways to go.
Yeah. So roughly 1,500 years into the ascending age. And through this time, we've experienced a renaissance. So we're waking up again. Renaissance is a word for rebirth of the year. That's what it's all about. this was broadly accepted throughout, many, many cultures up until the time of Darwin. And then he kind of usurped this that, things are getting better.
Yeah.
Evolution. Species are adapting faster. It doesn't very well explain why everything declined.
No, it's one of those things. It's like a backdrop, and but now if so in our teachings, 1 to 2,000 years is pretty significant. So where would that put us if we add that gets up to what, say, 3,500 years, 3 or 4,000 years? What would that get us into?
So we're definitely in the lower ages now. So you get closer to the higher ages, and they're not quite even. Manu, this great Indian king years ago, he's almost a mythical character. He said each 12,000 year period, 12,000 years up, 12,000 years is broken into a 4-3-2-1 ratio. And so Kali Yuga, the darkest age, is 1,200 years. So from 500 AD to 1700 AD, you're still in the darkest age. And then, of course, about that time, the Renaissance is in full bloom. Mankind's becoming much more rational about things. And scientific exploration is just booming. And then we go through this Dwapara Yuga, where we begin to understand finer forces. So electricity, magnetism, quantum electromagnetic forces, things like this. We're just toying with it now. But we have a full understanding of this throughout this next 2,400 years. And so another 2,000 years to go, then you'll be in the Treta Yuga. And that's sort of back to a pre-Babel age, if you look backwards. Going forward, Yogananda said that telepathy and clairvoyance will once again become. So the year 4,100 AD, it's full blown. But many people will have it hundreds of years before.
Right.
Common knowledge then.
So another 2,000 years, we'll be looking pretty good, better.
Yeah, a lot. I mean, it's hard to deceive people if we all kind of have telepathy. So a lot lying, a lot of evil stuff slowly goes away. I mean, it's already starting to be exposed by the greater light. And at first, all you just see is more problems. The age we're in now.
One thing that I admire about you is that you were pretty thick and still are thick into materialism, and because in the money game, and you're doing well at it, and yet you are still able to have a good portion of your interest and consciousness on the finer things, on these kinds of theories and these kinds of uplifting spiritual things as well. And that's quite admirable, I think, and it's very good for you to do that. It's fairly rare, I would say, too, and that's very good.
I'm superhuman. I have all the desires everybody else has.
Well, no, I understand that. Yes,
and struggle to overcome them, but
well, we all have that. But at least you seem to be focused on these really interesting and could be very worthwhile things. I mean, even just the idea of fanning this book, the holy science, which talks about all the religions being the same, really teaching the same kind of a thing, which is such an important. Look at the Middle East. It's something that can really help mankind now. Is that kind of a thing, and just this in our teachings, we're going forward, and through karma, and the next planet. See, in our understanding of what's going to happen, and then with probably within the next 2,000 years, maybe even 1,000 year, is that people will be sorted out a little bit, and so those who are ready to maybe go into a more golden age will remain on Earth and go into this golden age, and those who are not quite ready will go into another planet, somewhat similar to the experiences here, and still continue on this cycle of getting better and better and better and worse and worse and worse, but just separate it out a little bit so that maybe some percentage, more than 144,000 we trust, will be able to stay on Earth and go into maybe a different level of a golden age, and that's kind of, but that's kind of a difficult concept because people look at that as being, you know, not unified, and it's like who decides and who makes a decision of who's going to stay and who's going to go, and of course in our teaching is it's each person's higher self, each person's aspect of this God force would then decide where they are best able to grow themselves. But I think your concept, or the concept that you're talking about, is a very, very helpful one, because it can have everyone feel that we are all going forward, and we are all going to get to a golden age, and we are all kind of one of this one great being, and so I think it's a very good concept that you're talking about. It's very helpful.
Yeah, it's, all this is, my own guru is Paramhansa
Yogananda. Yeah. Wonderful man. Wonderful master. Yeah. Wonderful master.
But, and I think it's very, very similar. What you were talking about, we all evolve, we're working through our karma, and, and we're just keep coming back to Earth and have different experiences. Hopefully we're
Right.
improved and they're better
Yeah.
experiences.
Yeah.
And then it's a very few that actually make it off of this physical plane, get into the astral realm, and then you work through stuff there, and then into the ideational realm, and until you supposedly are, can realize yourself as a pure
Yeah.
soul, one with God.
Well, that's one thing. This would be another lecture or another talk sometime. But one place where the Aetherius Society expands upon that idea is that once you achieve nirvana, or whatever you want to call it, self-realization, nirvana, that's not the end. That's not you then becoming one, and your journey's over. At that point, you can then leave Earth and go to a more evolved planet, even. Even in our concept, again, might blow your mind, but even the planets in the solar system, like Venus and Saturn and Mars, have beings that are at a much higher vibratory rate, and then so once we eventually ascend and leave Earth, we then continue our evolution on these other planets of very highly evolved beings. And what they do, at least some of what they do, is help beings like us on Earth, who are still struggling to find out that we are a part of God, and there is this great being. And we believe that even people like Buddha and Jesus and whatnot, they're coming from these more evolved planets to help us through, you could say, through these ages. And so it's a fascinating story of evolution, and wherever you see it, whether it's through Yogananda's eyes or Sivananda's eyes or the Master Jesus or the Lord Buddha, if you look at it as this great opportunity to evolve and help others evolve. And if more and more people felt that way, there'd be less and less trouble on Earth. I guess that's my pitch, I guess.
Yeah, no, I think we're going in that direction. I'm
Yeah.
excited about the future every day.
Yeah. I'm really happy that we talked, because I love this idea of the Bernard sun, was it?
Bernard Star, which is our
Bernard
closest
star.
single star
Closest
system,
single star system, not with one planet they found around it.
at least one.
At least one.
A
That's
couple more
really,
ones. That's right.
it's really fascinating.
Yeah, and it's a possibility. The Sirius is interesting, but it seems to be too far.
Yeah.
Bernard's is interesting, but it seems to be going too fast.
Too fast.
Yeah.
And maybe out of control. Maybe it's going to pass us by. Right?
Could be. Yeah. You know, you mentioned something else earlier that might be a good point just for clarification.
Mhm.
You know, people nowadays talk about the Aquarian age.
Mhm.
Um, and remember we talked about Copernicus and the three celestial motions, and they each have associated cycles. Well, you can tell time in each of the celestial motions by the position of the sun. And
Sure.
so during the day, you know, when the sun is at its height, at its zenith, it's noon, you know, and so the position of the sun tells us where we are in the time of that day. And again, during the year, the position of the sun tells us where we are in the seasons of the year, you know, when it's your northern hemisphere and it's at the very top, at its zenith point.
Summer.
First day of summer, the solstice, that sort of thing. And so the sun also indicates where we are in the great year. Where the sun is on the autumnal equinox is the hour hand of the ages.
Right.
Well, it was down at the very lowest point, the autumnal equinox, in roughly 500 AD, and it will be at its highest point in another, 10,000 years from now. Yeah, roughly 12,500 AD. And that's if you use the autumnal equinox. It was backwards, upside down during the Dark Ages, of course. And so most people nowadays use the vernal equinox and opposite side.
Right.
And the vernal equinox is in Pisces at the dawning of the age of Aquarius. And so people use it correctly that, it's signaling a higher age.
Right.
But it's a
reverse.
hour hand. So it's an hour hand that shows that we would be already in the golden age on our way down.
Right.
So you really want to use the autumnal equinox, and all the graphics fit much better.
Right.
And it's why Aries is so revered in ancient Egypt. You know, that's the golden age in Aries, right? And you'll see in Karnak they line the king's way there with the rams, or Jason and the Argonauts. He's what's he searching for? He's searching for the golden fleece. What's a fleece? Fleece is a coat worn in the time of Aries. It's what Aries wears. And he's looking for the golden fleece, that golden age consciousness. And
interesting.
Where it's good to get the right hour hand down to know.
Yeah. Well, it just takes a while to shift everybody's brain back to the what it really is, Yeah.
Well,
some good work.
Yeah, it's been fantastic listening to you both.
Well, what do you think about it all, Jack?
Well, it's great to hear the teachings, because I've been listening to many of the. In fact, yesterday I was listening to a lecture by Dr. King called "The Cosmic Challenge," given in 1963, and he was talking. So this was a long time before ecology, and he's talking about the melting of the ice caps would affect the spin of the Earth and its on its axis because of the weight of the huge weight on the poles, and now there's going to be less, and it's affecting all the. So the metaphysician is well ahead of the of science. And so to hear this feedback is wonderful.
I've really enjoyed our talk, I must say.
Likewise. So what are both of your day jobs, if I might ask?
Jack?
I have a variety of things doing it: podcasting, translation, and volunteering for the Aetherius Society. But Brian's full time. This is his day.
Yeah, I'm now working right now. Yeah, no, I've been working full time for the society since '87, and I love it because it's like imagine you doing your passion all the time, and it's just it's thrilling to be able to talk to you and to be able to visit our branches in New Zealand and elsewhere, and just talk to people as they discover metaphysics and spirituality, and our main purpose in life in the Aetherius Society is to that's our creed is service and to help others. And when I was made a bishop, I'll never forget what I had to say is that my job is I serve the server. And so my job is to help others to help mankind. And what better job can there be than that?
I totally agree. Yeah, without service, it's not even fun.
Nothing. Exactly. That's the thing. There was this great study I read about, and it's so obvious when you say it, but it was a class in Harvard. I think it was on sociology, I think it was. And it seems kind of funny because it was some years ago, so $20 was a lot. But they gave everybody in the class $20, and they said, go out tomorrow and in one half the class, use that $20 to have a good time. Do whatever you want to do. You buy something or help, whatever have fun. And the other half class said, use the $20 and help someone, you know? And you can imagine when they come back, the ones with the greatest stories and the best experience were the ones that spent the $20 helping others. Because that's what it's all about. That's what's fun. That's what's exciting.
And it gives you joy.
Gives you so much joy.
Yeah.
You're just going to spend the $20 on a meal or something.
Yeah. Really good hot dog.
Yeah. All great. Yogananda said, as long as you breathe the air of earth, you should render service. Yeah.
Beautiful saying. Yeah. All the masters, they all knew it. They're just teaching people in different ways at different times, but that's the and if you can feel the truth of each master or of each spiritual being, then you're where you should be.
Yeah. The trick in this life is to find an occupation that can give you enough reward so you can, have a good material life.
Yeah.
So that you're in a position to truly serve.
Yeah.
So a lot of people struggle with that, because we're still really low age right now.
Of course. But that's where I take my hat out to you, because it's very, very easy to get lost in the area of high finance. It's not easy.
You just sort of look at ancient wisdom. You can find ways to make it work for you.
Yeah. Well, that's what you've done. That's I know you've done that, but it's rare. It's rare.
Yeah, the last company we created, Acorns,
Mm-hmm. A small micromanagement thing, or like?
Yeah, it's just based on the idea from little acorns, mighty oaks do grow, right? And it's such an intuitive, earthy, truthful concept,
Nice.
Any seed will grow into something bigger. You just have to love it and give it a little patience and do something. And so, yeah, we found a way of doing that where people can start these very small investment accounts.
Great.
Yeah. We now have, 5 million of them,
Excellent.
$10 and it's just saving loose change.
Yeah. Nice,
Found
very nice. And then that's really exactly what you need these days, because there's so many people. Um, you know, what's happened the last, I don't know, few decades is the people with money are just they're doing great, you know. But the ones without money are doing miserably. And so to have something like that is extremely timely thing in these days, at least in the West. Well done. I'll look that up.
Yeah. Well, I think in this modern world, we all hop around a lot, versus if we were just all very agrarian, stuck to a plan. You would grow things that would have value and create, just accumulate over years. And it's a little harder for people to figure out how to do that in
It is.
clarity.
Yeah, it is. It is.
But we are in the hero age, the Bronze Age, the Greeks called it the hero
age.
Interesting. I
Yeah,
didn't know
'cause
that.
there's so much turmoil, it's a great time there's so
Just
many
there
roads
about.
to right. Yeah. We all need a hero if we want to. Yeah.
That's great.
There's a book. Have you read Nature's Finer Forces by Rama Prasad?
I've not. No.
Yeah, that could be interesting for follow up, because you said Nature's Finer Forces. You used that term, so
That's a good book. It's not an easy book to get through. How full. It's
maybe the best.
Check that out.
Yeah.
Speaking of difficult books, have you guys read Hamlet's Mill by any chance?
Hamlet's Mill. That's very familiar, but I don't think I've read that. I certainly know the title very well. What? Tell me more about it.
It's written by Giorgio de Santillana and Hertha von Deschen. Giorgio was head of the professor of the history of science at MIT.
Mm-hmm.
Hertha von Deschen held a similar job at Frankfurt University, and so they got together to find the origins of science. Where did science come from? How did numbers and counting and astronomy and all this sort of thing start? And so they studied all the old writings they could find, which takes them to scripture, which takes them to myth, folklore. And when they get into myth and folklore, they get kind of completely lost, because nothing seems to make sense until they realize a lot of it is about astronomy, the royals, first science, if you will.
Yeah.
And so they go on this wonderful journey where they look at the myth and folklore of over 30 ancient cultures, and they find that they almost all are looking at the stars. They've all figured out the daily cycle, the yearly cycle, or the great year cycle. And so that's why I loved it, because it really gives you some insight into the great year and its connection with astronomy.
Sounds interesting, especially for scientists to kind of go in that direction. It must be really enlightening to see what they say about it.
Yeah, right. It's a little dense, but just chock full of jewels.
We're told in our
Interesting.
teachings that the sun, the God in the Bible is the sun. The Brahma of the Hindu scripts is the sun.
At the time. That's
They
right.
spoke the words to greatness.
Yeah.
And there's been many religions like that, Zoroastrianism,
Right.
Mithraic culture. Yeah.
was what-
Mithras is actually, are you familiar with that? I think you have some Mithraic temples. Might be a few.
Say it again.
So it's the Mithraic school. It's considered a mystery school. It flourished during the Hellenistic period, late Hellenistic period in Greece and Rome. They have found over 200 temples throughout Europe because they were built underground. And so when the Christian era came along, because these people revered Mithras, sort of the god of the sun, as God, they were considered pagans.
At the
The
height of it.
Christians would pour their trash into these temples, and it had the odd effect of covering these temples up, filling them with trash, and therefore they were preserved. And still, still find them today, when they do
Wow.
excavations.
Wow.
And they often have a Mithras in the middle, and he's turning the wheel of precession, the zodiac.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There's two boys on each side, Cautis and Cautopades, and Cautis holds the torch up when the ascending age is
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
it's happening, and Cautopades is holding the torch down,
Interesting.
ascending age. And so, yeah, check it out. The Mithraic temples, the god Mithras, god of the sun.
That's
It's
interesting.
all there. It's just like
It
like
is
a Dan
all
Brown
there.
novel, isn't it? Yeah.
Good.
Well, it'd be
You're
really
really
interesting.
helpful.
Lovely talk, Walter. I really appreciate the chance to have a conversation with you.
Likewise.
Very interesting. And
And if
thanks
you're
for putting
just
it all
around,
together, Jack.
maybe we can get together sometime.
I'd love
It's,
to. I'd love to. So
awesome.
you're. I thought you were down in San Diego, but you're in more like the Newport Beach area, I guess. And
Yeah, sort of back and forth between Newport and the
Newport.
desert.
Right.
Depending
I must say that there is there's a sacred spot that I go to every so often, just outside of Palm Springs. It's with Indian Hills, do they call it? Indian
Wells.
no, Indian Canyons, and it's that it's on Indian land, and if you're driving through Palm Springs off the freeway,
hiked
you're
it
driving
many
through it. You go there?
Oh, all the time.
Hiked it.
Yeah. It's the Andreas one is the one I like the most, and you go in there 100 degrees outside and underneath these 300-year-old palms, and you put your feet in the water, and you can just do some meditation or contemplation. It's just a really, really powerful place, and I wouldn't mind meeting you there sometime and have a discussion or something like that, a cup of coffee or something
Okay.
like that.
Well, let's put a reminder in for when it cools off a little bit sometime. November.
Okay, yeah, because I'm back late in November, and I'll reach out to you and I'll let you know when I'm back.
Who's there? Walter@loststar.com.
Walter@loststar.com. We'll do it.
Okay.
Thanks for bringing us together, Jack. Appreciate it.
No, it was a pleasure. So maybe you could just finish with a little bit of how people could find you, and if they're interested to read your books, where's the best? Do you have a website?
My own stuff, Binary Research Institute, they can go to and look at all this stuff on this, the binary system. Or you can go to loststar.com and find some of our stuff there too.
Great book. It's a very good book he's got there. I really enjoyed it.
And there's one for kids too. It's called The Great Year Adventures with Tommy the Time Traveling Turtle. And so he goes all
Great. That's probably where I need to start because
the little reading.
it's been. I've got a long reading list after this conversation.
Okay, well, thank you guys. Really appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thank
likewise.
you. Thanks
Take
again,
care.
Jack, for putting it together.
My pleasure. Bye bye.
Bye.